starting recording. Conversations with Alden. Today we're going to talk about Coast, art world, Marxism, communism, etc.
Yes.
Right.
Let's see. This was after I had gone off to New York and gone to art school and learned a few things. I was back in Connecticut and I was attempting to get some representation in the galleries. So one that I stopped by was Zarek's Gallery in Terryville. They had another one in Farmington. I don't know. Alex Zarek was from the Russian community. Joy Zarek was not. They both studied in Baltimore. Anyway, they had a gallery. Occasionally, they'd put on fundraisers for the for different causes. Joy was the initiative behind that. Alex was really conservative. He was afraid that they'd ruffle feathers and alienate customers and such. So, ask me some questions. My mind hasn't incorporated the coffee yet.
That's okay. Okay, so you went to this gallery, you were looking for representation.
Yeah.
And you met Joyce and Alex?
Yeah. I made friends with Joy and got invited over to their place and kind of became part of their community. They had a little art colony in Terryville. They had a charming home on a pond, an old mill pond with a dam, and they had a couple of swans on the pond. It was very attractive.
Yeah, sounds beautiful.
A lot of woods around. Let's see. You know who Lawrence Ferlinghetti is?
No.
San Francisco beat poet or publisher.
I'm looking him up. Painter, social activist, and co-founder of City Lights.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, he made a visit to the Zareks and famously ran off with a reporter who was covering it for a while.
So did they have like gatherings in their home, or?
They had occasional fundraisers in the gallery. Alex was conservative about that. He
didn't want to be shown supporting something that was too far out there.
Yeah, that might alienate his wealthy clients.
What kind of stuff did they support? What kind of stuff did they do fundraisers for?
It was anti-war at that time. The Vietnam War was going on, and that was all that anyone was talking about.
Yeah, okay. So I can see how that would upset the conservative community.
Yeah, well, especially since there was so much defense industry around there. You know, yeah. If you said unkind things about the war, you may be affecting people's livelihood. So it's a difficult topic.
Yeah. Huh.
So let's see.
So you started to meet other people?
Yeah, I had some long conversations with Joy, looking out over the pond, sitting at their breakfast table, drinking their coffee, and
Nice.
And then she introduced me to Sandra Snyder. Her first name was actually Alexandra. Her family was Russian. I'm not sure what the last name was at birth. She had gotten into the art community or gained some standing by posing for Alexander Zarek, Alex, for a famous nude painting, which I never got to see. I don't know where it ended up with. But she was a real beauty at that time. So I got to be friends with Sandra, and they lived on at Edgecombe Manor on a country estate in Cheshire, Connecticut, with a winding drive going up to it and several acres attached. Let's see. Her husband, Peter, was an heir to the Reader's Digest money.
Wow.
So they were not wanting in the least bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. As was the custom at the time, they were referred to as Peter and Sandra, kind of one word, like Joy was Alex, Joy and Alex, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
Let's see. And Sandra was the activist. She started a little community newspaper called The Spark. It was based on a newsletter that Lenin wrote when he was in exile before the Russian Revolution. That was called Iskra. I think that's Russian for the spark. And then not coincidentally, when I went out to New Mexico Highlands University, they had been taken over by Chicano Marxists, and I ended up working for their newspaper, which was La Mecha, which is the Spanish translation of Iskra and the Spark. So that's where I got a chance to let's see, Dr. Cesar Hernandez Sela was a teacher from Spain, and he taught the neo-Marxism class there. But we're back in Connecticut.
Cesar Hernandez Sela is the author of The Polarity of Mexican Thought, Instrumentalism and Finalism. Does that sound like the guy?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Semantic scholar.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, we're back in Connecticut. Peter and Sandra's newspaper was The Spark, and I got to write a few articles for it. Coincidentally, since we're close to International Women's Day, Sandra wanted me to write an article about International Women's Day, but I deferred to her as the expert in it because I had never paid any attention to the topic, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and it's kind of part of the problem that all of the information on women comes from men.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that the senator would be better able to speak to the topic than I would.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So was Sandra a Marxist?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what was
Uh,
the public sentiment against Marxists around this time?
Well, again, because we were in the middle of the defense industry, there were several people that took exception. One of the things that Sandra was behind, although not the face of, was the reviving the New England town hall meetings and getting the city to commit to an anti-war stance, and at a public meeting with the they call them aldermen or selectmen. I don't know what we'd call them.
That's a lofty goal.
Yeah. Um, let's see. They have the newspaper. Sandra arranged for at least a couple of those public meetings that ended with the town, taking a resolution against their participation in the Vietnam War. Let's see.
So how did it go from that to being harassed and persecuted for what they were?
Well, word got around what they were doing, and I think let's see, she was concerned about the John Birch Society, who were active right wingers at the time. They were also somewhat concerned with the motorcycle gangs who had been enforcers. And I drove a motorcycle, my brother did. We were kind of, we didn't wear the gang colors, but we were bikers.
Yeah.
So I learned later when we got to be friends, and they thought that they could speak freely in front of me, that they were bragging about recruiting some guy, kind of turning him from the John Birch Society and convincing him that he was an artist, and inviting him into their circles.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I said, "Oh shit, I'm being used." This is what it's all about.
Right. They can show you off as a convert.
Yeah. That tack me up on the bulletin board as a gain.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, so anyway, they were meeting resistance, and at one point, I think the brake line on their car was cut, and they almost had an accident. Their Irish setter dog had been hit by a car, which they were pretty sure was intentional. Mm-hmm. So Peter and Sandra's plan, they had a couple of kids also, was to go into exile for a while until things cooled down. I helped drive one of the moving trucks. We went up through New England, through Maine, through Nova Scotia, up to Cape Breton Island, which is way the hell up at the end of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like the equivalent of the North Vancouver Island on the west coast. It's out there. Let's see. Sandra, when she got there, tried to organize the local Native Americans. she was sure that they had revolutionary potential because they were so oppressed and downtrodden and all that. She said that she ended up with a lawn full of drunken Indians, that they were not great candidates for conversion.
Interested, yeah. Wow. Do you think that, so it's kind of been my experience that the more money people have, the more free they are to pay attention to the more esoteric intellectual pursuits?
Yeah.
Like, do you think most of the working class people who don't have any money are not interested in these things because they're just trying to put bread on the table?
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's it's good that we have movers and shakers, that we have people trying to turn things on their head and stuff, but it does seem to always be those who are free from having to keep blood and bone together.
Right. Yeah. Peter, well, Peter was definitely a scholarship kid, they were not working class by a long shot.
Yeah.
Eventually things cooled down enough where they could return to Connecticut. And let's see, at one point, Joy told me that there was a lady up the street who used to stop in now and then to visit, and Joy wasn't sure why, because they really didn't have a lot in common. They didn't have a lot to talk about. It turns out that this woman was a neighbor who was spying on them for the FBI, and we find that out because Joy has a clipping from a Florida paper where the woman moved to, where she admitted that she had been spying on the Xerox, and that they really hadn't been doing anything that the FBI should take exception to.
Yeah.
I had met the local FBI guy who was stationed at the Litchfield barracks where my father worked out of. I'd gone up to visit my dad and met this guy who was very short and padded shoulders and, serious expression, and a real FBI guy, definitely suits. So at one point, my dad gave me a tip. He said, be careful about who you're hanging out with. They're under surveillance.
Interesting.
So I said, yeah, sure. He had given me a tip earlier when I was just out of high school and had joined kind of an outlaw gang. They had some records, and my dad was concerned about their influence on me, so he gave me that tip. But that situation dissolved without any help. Okay, so I met Joy, and she referred me to Sandra, who was much more of an activist. And they must have thought that I was finally ready, because Sandra introduced me to let's see, who the hell? Boy, my brain isn't working this morning.
Is it a man or a woman?
A couple lived in Roxbury. Oh, what the heck was the name?
What did they do?
Some very high level artwork. They
What kind of medium? Painting?
painting and prints. They're very talented people. They had both been to Juilliard. They had matching grand pianos in the living room that they played on. These were some of the classiest people that I'd ever run into.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and that they were represented at galleries in New York and would hop the train down there to do business now and then.
Was this the Greta somebody that you?
Pardon?
Is this the Greta somebody that you told me about? Painter?
Oh, Gert.
Gert. Is that them?
Yeah. Gert Bearer, Barreer. Punch that up. You can see some of her.
Yeah, I did look her up when we talked the last time. Is that the couple that you're talking about?
Yeah. Gertrude Bearer.
Barrer. Yeah.
See her stuff. She was one of the people who really invented modern art. She wrote an article for an art journal back in 1948 on abstract expressionism. Before that was a thing. That's like Jackson Pollock and the splashy paintings, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I remember looking her up. I love her paintings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'll put a link to some of the images when we're done.
Yeah, her stuff was fine, and at one point she gave me a nice print, which I'm afraid I lost somewhere along the way. I was so unsettled, and
yeah.
So
were they also involved in the communist Marxist world, or no?
Gert was one of the organizers of the Fifth Avenue Peace Parade Committee, which meant that she coordinated a lot of different groups and probably had at least 100,000 people under her command or under her influence,
mm-hmm.
that she could send out into the streets.
Right.
While she was behind the scenes and let other people take responsibility for it. She was a good organizer.
Yeah.
They had been friends with L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology.
Yeah.
They kind of participated in the theory behind that, getting it started. Who else did they know?
So very upper stratosphere, influential.
Yeah. I told you about Mabel Dodge Lujan's place in Taos, New Mexico.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week.
Yeah, Gert, and I'm blanking on her name. Her husband were the ones who went out there in the 1940s or so, and she had a fling with D.H. Lawrence's stable boy.
Okay.
Gotcha. So it all ties together.
Yeah.
Sandra, Joy, and what's her name? I was just talking about her.
Sandra, Jane, Joyce, Gert.
Yeah, Gert. They were all associated with the Voluntown Peace Center in eastern Connecticut. One of the other people associated with it was Ilse Reich. Did, did we talk about Wilhelm Reich?
No. No, who is he?
Wilhelm Reich was a psychiatrist who had studied with Jung and had studied with Freud and who else?
Oh, Wilhelm Reich, the man who invented free love.
Yeah. He one of his books was The Sexual Revolution. He was the ideology behind the whole free love movement.
Interesting. Maybe we should talk about all that next time. We're about done. I gotta cut it off on time today because I've got something else I'm doing. I told you.
Okay.
But this was a really good one. Do super interesting stuff, and I will put the links to the different people that you were talking about.
Very good.
On the video, and then we will get together again next week. Be thinking about what you want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There's probably more of this that we can milk, but I'll give some thought between now and then. Or what do you think? You're the one who's heard a lot of my old stories. What do you want?
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, but let me think on it, and we'll talk in between now and next week, and we'll come up with something good.
Very good.
All right. Thank you again, Alden, and I will sign off for now, and we will do this again next week.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen.
Bye.
Bye for now.